Hey guys, and happy Thursday. Um, so I just wanted to jump in real quick here in the middle of the module week. Just to remind you that don't forget tonight your initial discussion board post. Your thread is due before the end of the day, your time. And this week we're looking at specialty courts or subject matter courts. And I think I rather refer to them as subject matter courts. And these are those specialized courts that we may have some experience with, for example, traffic court. So if you've ever gotten a speeding ticket, for example, you'd have had to go to traffic court. And oftentimes we would call these specialty courts or subject matter courts. Okay, and so in my short module lecture, I talk about subject matter courts and what they are and how they apply to our judicial system. So please make sure you take a look at my short module lecture for the week in which I go over this week's milestone 1 assignment. So that's what we're working on this week. And in particular, there's a couple things you need to do with that. And there's an array of choices you have. Some of these subject matter courts or specialty courts are unique to the federal judiciary system. Some are more tied to state and local courts. So, for example, traffic court is one of those trial courts of limited jurisdiction. So, municipal courts, city courts, things like that. From your previous research, you have an understanding as to what they are, where they lie within the organizational structure. So these would be the type of courts that we're talking about here. Some of you may live in an urban area that has housing courts that resolve the issue with landlords and tenants and so forth. So those are some of those specialty courts or subject matter courts, right? And subject matter courts, basically they have the authority to hear certain types of cases such as juvenile matters or immigration matters or bankruptcy matters or traffic matters, probate, divorce, whatever the case may be. We have some of these specialized courts. All right, so remember in your initial post, you're going to describe the court you selected. So don't just tell me you selected juvenile court. Tell me a little bit about juvenile court. What is the purpose behind juvenile court? Or if you select probate, what is probate court? What's the purpose of probate court? And then explain how your intended career path might land you in engaging in this type of a court. All right, and then you're going to look at the potential impact that these specialized courts have on the business environment and the quality of life in your community. All right. So in other words, how might a traffic court benefit the community? Maybe by holding people accountable for their bad driving habits. It reduces the number of traffic collisions within the community. A lot of times businesses might be impacted by high rates of insurance because of bad drivers. There's an array of things you could argue. Okay. So just don't forget to make sure that you include how these specialty courts might impact things like the community and also the business community. So quality of life issues is what we're really referring to here in the community, and then the business environment and how they benefit. Okay, so again, you have an array of courts that you can choose from, but make sure somehow it's whether or not your intended career path may lead you to engage in this type of court. And your intended career path may not, but try to pick one that you think you might be interacting with, because then it's more of a tangible learning moment for you. Okay, so that's what we're doing this week on our discussion board. Now, also this week you have your milestone 1 assignment, and I'm going to go into more detail in another lecture later on about your milestones and how they're building upon one another. But just know that your milestone assignments are building upon one another. So this week we are dealing with milestone number 1. Okay, and then let me double check to make sure. Then in week 5, you're dealing with milestone number 2. And then in week 7, you're doing your final submission, which is going to be a culmination of milestone 1, milestone 2, and then there's about 4 or 5 other critical elements that were not part of milestone 1 and milestone 2 that will also be required in your final project. And so I will talk about all that a little bit later, but just know that the milestones build upon one another. So once you complete your milestone 1, and then you submit it, and then I give you my feedback and suggestions, then you go back and you tweak that milestone based on my recommendations. all right? And then you polish it, you clean it up, and then you set it aside, okay? And then when you finish milestone 2, you do the same thing. You're going to be looking at my feedback, my recommendations. You're going to clean it up, polish it up, and then you're going to put it right under milestone number 1, all right? So in essence, you're going to have most of your final project done. You're going to have probably about 5 other critical elements that are not part of milestone 1 and milestone 2 that you need to incorporate into your final project. And then I will discuss those in week 6 and then in week 7. Okay, so take a look at your scenario, understand the fact pattern, understand who our characters are, all right? Because understanding our characters is going to help you better understand such things as mandatory minimum sentencing and sentencing guidelines and things like that when we talk about that, okay? Because a lot of these things, such as sentencing guidelines, a lot of it is driven by your criminal behavior or your past criminal behavior. So in our scenario, we have Jed. Jed is armed with a shotgun at the time that he commits the bank robbery, along with Herman, who also uses a shotgun. But Jed rather, is the only one who's a convicted felon. So in other words, he's been in prison before. All right, so typically we tend to punish those people more so than those who have not been to prison because they should know better. All right, so that's all going to be tied into sentencing guidelines and mandatory minimums, and we'll talk about that later. But you really need to make sure you read through the scenario, read through the assignment guidelines, read through the instructions, go through the grading rubric, understand what's expected of you, okay? Watch my short module lecture. It's going to help you out because I'm going to fill in some blanks for you, okay? So that's it, I think. So far, you guys are doing a great job. I really appreciate all the hard work that everyone has put forth. This is always a tough term because we have a lot of holidays coming up. We got Thanksgiving, and then our term ends, I think, on December 20th, so right close to Christmas. So we got a lot going on. It's easy to get distracted. And on top of that, we've got COVID-19 and all the issues and impacts that it's causing us in our personal lives and so forth. So I do appreciate everyone's hard work. So hang in there. We're, like I said, finishing up week 3 here, so we're getting close, okay? But we still got a ways to go. Again, if there's anything I can ever do to help you, kindly let me know. Reach out to me. I'm more than willing to work with you if something comes up in your personal life and prevent you from completing things on time. I can work with you and we can keep you on track, right? That's really the important part of this, okay? So I'm here for you guys if you need me. Otherwise, have a very, very enjoyable weekend. And I will see you guys in Brightspace. Thanks again, guys.